There appeared to be another wonder in the heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. So it turns out there is something hiding in Virgo, which is being censored by SkyMap, and partially censored by Google Sky, but perhaps unintentionally left buried and uncensored in old NASA.gov archive. Let's start with the basics. The box shows the area where we're going to be focusing on. Now compare it with the above image, where Jupiter is going to be on September 23rd, for future reference, using SkyMap. Now once you switch the iris to the infrared astronomical satellite, we're presented with this. Interesting, isn't it? Now why on earth would knowledge that should be readily available to the public be censored, and only in the infrared spectrum? Fortunately, SkyMap isn't the only program available for us to look at. So here's a look at the constellation of Virgo in Google Sky Maps to give you a frame of reference. And now here's a look at the same area zoomed in using infrared imaging with Google Sky. Now do you see it? This in itself proves nothing, but one has to wonder why this particular patch of sky is being censored. Thankfully, NASA has an archive of several types of infrared images of this patch of space stored deep in a .gov website archive. Also, there will be a link in the description box for this patch of sky in both SkyMap and Google Sky. Now here's where it gets very interesting. According to NASA, this is what is sitting behind the censored patch of sky. Now compare the above to the partially censored patch of sky in Google Sky, and you'll find that they match up visually. Compare the coordinates to the pictures in NASA archive, and you'll find that they are in the same location. Now is it just me, or do I see 2 eyes, or a snout, and a smiling row of teeth? Not only does it remarkably resemble a dragon, but it also happens to be sitting exactly where it needs to be in order to fulfill the following verse of Revelation 12 through 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child, as soon as it was born. As in, if you check the location of whatever this thing is, and compare it to Jupiter, will be on September 23rd, 2017. It's standing right in front of it. September also happens to be a Jubilee Feast of Trumpets, 50 years since Israel took back Jerusalem, also known as Rosh Hashanah. Pardon the pun, but given that these things very accurately match prophetic texts written 1,900 plus years ago in advance, I find the odds of it all being nothing more than a coincidence to be absurdly astronomical.
I did a little bit more research and I found something really quickly that looks a little bit like this, and scientists, because they're really clever and know more than we know, are saying that it looks like a dark matter bridge, whatever one of them might be. Dark matter is supposedly 27% of the whole universe's mass, and you can't see it and you can't detect it. So it's a very, very easy theory to defend. I wonder if it's a coincidence that the Vatican owns the world's largest binocular telescope and an infrared device that they've named the Lucifer device. You can't write this stuff.
Getting ready to move into this phase of biblical prophecy, the revealing of the coming of the beast. Now the beast, the mark of the beast system won't start September 23rd, but the revealing of the coming of the beast and his system is on the horizon. But remember who wins. Are you saved? Give your life to Jesus Christ. He's coming for his bride. He's coming for his bride. He's coming very soon.
Good evening, everybody. I'm J Binsack. Thank you for joining me. It is September 23rd, 2017. Many today predicted that Earth would collide, allegedly, with Nibiru, and it would be the end of mankind. Well, they are very, very wrong. As I have said, even in my last night's show and previously, this would not be the end of mankind on September 23rd, but just the beginning of what I believe to be the tribulation. And within this time period, it is going to become hell on earth. Tonight, I have two special guests, Scott Cohen, founder of Planet X News, and physicist Dr. Claudia Albers. As you can hear Scott banging around in the background. Can you hear me, Scott?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Dr. Albers, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me.
Love to have you on, and I know our members love to hear from you both and follow you regularly.
Thank you.
Let me first start out by saying, congratulations. You guys have done some incredible work recently with following all of this, and your reports, Doctor, have been wonderful, as well as Scott's shows.
Thank you.
And I know our members feel the same. And I'm going to just turn down. I'm being told I'm a little loud, so it could be. I'm using a new microphone, everybody, so trying to. How's that? Is that better? Okay. So we'll go from there. Anyway, let me start first. You saw, you heard me playing in the beginning that Google, Sky, and NASA and them seem to be blocking a patch in the sky, in space, showing these possible what could be the Nemesis Planet X system, the red dragon, as they say in Revelations. Dr. Albers, what do you think today's celestial event means, and is it real?
Well, it's definitely real. If you read it in Revelation 12 and you look at what it looks like in the sky, it's exactly that. It's Jupiter within the belly of Virgo. We have the 12 stars, which is the Leo constellation, and plus the planets that are there. So we definitely have that. We have the sun at the shoulder of Virgo. We have the moon at her feet, exactly as it says in Revelation 12. And then he talks about the dragon. And, of course, we would then need to have what it would look like a dragon in place. And it seems that the video that you just showed indicated that it was indeed there, and it's been there for quite a while in the Virgo constellation. And so that puts everything together. The sign is definitely there. The Bible mentions it, and that's what we see in the sky. So I think it is real.
So when they talk about that Venus goes into the womb and comes out, what is the planet really doing, Doctor? Is it just shifting, or what is happening in that process?
The planet went into Virgo last year in 2016, and that was in November. So exactly 9.5 months, and Jupiter will be leaving Virgo about now.
Okay.
So everything is in place. So as it leaves Virgo and it leaves her stomach, that can be thought of as the planet being born, because it's coming out of the womb of the Virgin. So I think that's what the Bible means by the birth of a male child. The male child is then, basically Jupiter. So, but it went in October of 2016, so that's 9.5 months. Sorry, in November 20th, 2016. So exactly 9.5 months. So what are the odds that Jupiter is exactly 9.5 months in the womb of Virgo? That again fits exactly what the Bible is saying, that the male child would be in the womb for 9.5 months and then be born.
I did, in doing some research, I find out this is like 1850 something BC, the last time that something like this happened.
Yes, the sign exactly as it is now only happened about 6,000 years ago.
So this is very major. I mean, this is a major. Yes. This is really a major event here, celestial, as far as the space goes, celestial event.
Yeah, because we have the 3 planets: Mercury, Venus, and Mars.
And I have a picture up now showing that they line up.
Okay.
Yeah, that they're lining up with the sun.
Yeah, good.
So what is okay? So what is supposed to, when they talk about this situation with the sun in this layout here, what is this really happening in a physics sense? I mean, they're just...
Well, it just means that our view of the sun is such that the Virgo constellation is behind the sun. So we are looking at the sun from Earth, any position on the planet. As the Earth rotates, we look out into space. And when our portion on the planet faces the sun and we look out towards the sun, what's behind there is the stars of the Virgo constellation.
Oh, and you have Mercury, Mars, and Venus all lining up, correct?
That's right. They're all lining up because we have Leo just above Virgo. So that's always how our skies are. Leo and Virgo. Leo on the right, Virgo on the left, Leo slightly above Virgo as it is now. But the planets are aligned in such a way that they are in Leo right now. Jupiter moves a lot slower than the other planets. That's why Jupiter has been where it's been for quite a while.
That's what I was going to ask you. How is Jupiter staying like in position, so to speak, why it's been there so long? Is it because it's moved slower?
Yes, it definitely does. Don't forget, Mercury and Venus are inner planets, so they move very quickly. And Mercury moves around, makes one revolution in 88 days.
Okay.
And Venus a little bit longer. Mars a bit longer than Earth. But Jupiter is out there, so far out in the solar system, so it moves very slowly. So that's why it can stay in the same constellation for 9.5 months.
Okay. Now it makes sense to me. And I'm sure it makes sense to many viewers that now, because it moves much slower.
Yes. So the closer you are to the sun, the faster the planet will move, and the further you are from the sun, the slower it will move.
And that could also make sense why they allege that the Planet X system, the solar system itself, is so far from the sun it moves very slowly. Is that correct? Because of its orbit?
Well, it was supposed to. And my calculations reveal, I used whatever data I had available, and I calculated that if Planet X was able to move into the inner solar system, it would be in the inner solar system now. That it crossed over.
I agree with you. I believe it is in this. I believe it is where they're showing it blacked out at this moment.
Yes. And we've seen some images in LASCO that shows the cross pattern, and I've written some articles about that. And that would mean that it is in the inner solar system. I've put it together with whatever images I have. As you know, that we don't have the same kind of resources that NASA, of course, has, that JPL has. We work with what we have, and according to what we have, I think it is in the inner solar system and possibly has been there for quite a while.
Do you think I know many people, when doing all this research, they say that this system moves at like 45,000 miles an hour or something like that. Does that sound like that? It sounds pretty fast to me. I mean, it is like a moving comet, this system, correct?
Yes, it definitely can move as fast. There is no limit to its speed, possibly the speed of light. It wouldn't move at that speed, of course. But to tell you the truth, I cannot tell you how fast it is moving. I mean, I did calculate that it had moved 5 AU within about 6 months. But it is supposed to accelerate as it gets to the sun.
So as it gets closer to the sun, as they say, it will pick up speed.
That's right.
Why would that? Is that because it's basically getting fueled?
You see, all planets move closer in their perihelion position. This is due to conservation of angular momentum. It's also Kepler's second law. And that means that's the same thing why an object, an ice skater, when they twirling around in a circle, they have their arms out, and as they bring them in, they will rotate faster.
Yes.
Well, that means that an object that's rotating about another, when it moves in towards the object it's rotating around, it has to rotate faster around that object. That's why as they come closer to the sun, comets do the same thing. They will move faster and faster.
Can you explain what the term helion means for the viewers, the listeners?
Helio is the word for sun in Greek. So anything that says helio is to do with the sun. So when we use the word Gaia, so anything that starts with G or Geo means the Earth. So
let me ask you something. When they say that these planets come into helion, what does that mean? Does that mean in line? They come
into the sun. Helion is the word for sun.
Right. So that means that they're coming in line with the sun and closer to the sun. Yes.
That's right. They're coming towards the sun. That's what it means.
Okay. Because many people.
Oh yes. Sorry. I know I mentioned the word perihelion.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. Yes. What does perihelion mean?
Peri means closest to. So it comes to the closest distance to the sun. That's what perihelion means.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. That's what I was. A lot of people don't understand.
Sorry about that. I forget that I use these terms.
I try to give it to everybody in the most basic layman's terms so that people can understand what the meanings are. So when we discuss things that that people understand what we're talking about.
I like to do that as well. I usually define all the terms in my articles, but sometimes when I'm speaking, I may forget.
Scott, what do you think? You and I have been discussing about how everybody's been. You and I were one of the few that didn't say that the 23rd was going to be a destructive day. With these allegations that the world was going to come to an end and that we were going to be hit, or Venus was going to hit, Planet X, or vice versa, and Earth, and so what's your take on all that?
Well, based on all of the years of research, and also speaking with Gil Broussard and all of his biblical research, I found that it was definitely not a good idea to mix science with religion.
Bravo.
Or biblical prophecy. Even though the biblical prophecy gives us some information, points us into a direction, you have to remember one thing. We're now living in very modern times. The people who sat down and the scribes who wrote down the information for the Bible, they're seeing things and translating them during their times.
Sure.
So we're dealing with, I hate to use the terminology, but we're dealing with two different monsters here. We're dealing with two totally different subjects. The alignment of these planets in reference to September 23rd is just that. It's a planetary alignment. And possibly back when this occurred, it was noted down in these biblical times, they were very into celestial events. They recorded this. Remember, they didn't have maps and things of that nature and cell phones and TVs and books. They went by the stars.
Sure, everything was done by the stars.
Research that I've done and that Dr. Albers has done with me, we both we come to pretty much the same conclusions, is that there really isn't any relation between what we refer to as Planet X and this biblical prophecy for September 23rd. Now, over the course of the last couple of days, I've been watching very, very carefully everything going across social media and YouTube, and what I've been seeing is this mass influx of disinformation and just outright fear-mongering, and probably a good portion of this is being conducted covertly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because now what happens is all of that information has been spread about the date of September 23rd. Now, nothing has occurred. So therefore, they're hoping that the credibility is now smashed.
Of course. And then they'll say again, Planet X, Nibiru doesn't exist, da-da-da-da-da. And,
exactly. And if you go into really deciphering what the biblical prophecy states about this celestial event, is that it is the beginning of the 7-year tribulation.
Exactly.
So this is actually the beginning, not the end. And as you can see, even back in these biblical times, man did not become extinct. Man survived, and man thrived into the future, right where we're at right now. So, there is a big, big difference. I really don't know where or when the date of the 23rd joined in with Planet X research. We already know for a fact that these objects exist by the sun. I personally think that they are pretty close to the orbital time of the sun, which is approximately 27 to 28 days for the sun to rotate. I think they are very, very close in orbiting the sun. And you really have to think about this, because these objects have very, very strong magnetic fields, the same as the sun.
Sure.
The doctor will tell you, these types of objects are going to be highly attracted to each other. They're not going to just let each other go that easily. So if you take two very strong industrial strength magnets and put them together and try to pull them apart, the strongest man in the world will not be able to pull them apart. So this is what we're dealing with.
So part of this has been, and I talked to both of you before the show. I want to bring up tonight what's been really trending all over is the disappearance of the oceans around the planet, and to decipher for everyone the difference between what happens with a hurricane when it comes and pulls some water out of a bay, like in Tampa Bay, and then it comes back in, as opposed to what's really going on in like Brazil and France and other areas, and where this water is going and why it is shifting. And I'm going to pull up a picture here quick of one of the most recent.
We are keeping track of the stories and the information that is coming out. Dr. Albers has actually been charting the reported occurrences of these recessions of the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very severe warning sign.
Thank you. I've been trying to say this and explain it to people, and
people really need to open up their eyes and pay very close attention to what you're saying when you're referencing these disappearing and receding oceans. Now, I've studied hurricanes for more than 20 years. Living in South Florida for 22 years, that's when I got into weather. I was my first year out of college, man. I was deep into weather. And then I went through Hurricane Andrew. And I mean, I met Hurricane Andrew, dead on, and I regret it. We can see the devastation that's occurred with these last several hurricanes, 3 Category 5 hurricanes just ripping the shreds out of everything.
Sure.
I won't even get into the geoengineering of these weapons of weather, but never in all of these years, never, ever, ever, ever have I heard of all of these water recessions. I've never heard of it referenced by any weatherman,
right,
anywhere.
Right. Now there's all of a
sudden we're hearing it.
Sure. Now this is different, and I want everybody to understand this. Like I said in my show last night, if there is a Category 4 or 5 hurricane happening and it comes, we'll say over Florida like it did with Irma, when you get into the Bay areas, we'll say of Tampa or other areas, the force of the wind and that will pull out the tide, and then as the storm passes, it will rescind back in. That is completely different than what we're showing in this picture and what has been going on around the world for about 6-7 weeks now. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yeah, that is correct. When we started seeing this happen in Brazil, there were no hurricanes anywhere.
Right.
This was from August 12th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there were no hurricanes. This was definitely happening. There was no way to explain what was happening, although they tried again with natural phenomena like the wind. And it is true that if you experiment yourself, I'm sure you've all had a bowl of hot soup. If you blow very hard on your soup, you actually create waves across the surface away in the direction in which you were blowing. And you can affect the level of the water slightly by blowing.
Sure.
So this would be what a hurricane would be doing. It's basically due to the wind. But the moment you change the direction in which you blow, you will notice that the water comes back and the level is once again established.
Sure, like what happened with Irma, and like I said, in Orlando and Tampa. I mean, in Tampa Bay and places like that, the water came back.
Well, let me just add one quick important thing to what Dr. Albers is stating. What she's stating is absolutely true, but you have to remember one thing. Listen to me very, very carefully. Do you think that a 150 mile an hour wind, or even a 200 mile an hour wind, or even a 300 mile an hour wind is going to be able to displace the volume of water in a bay or even the ocean?
Sure, we're talking about miles and miles and miles of ocean missing.
Yeah, mathematically, it cannot happen. Physically, it cannot happen. That would be the same as you standing on the shores of Lake Erie, bending down on your hands and knees and blowing at the water from the shoreline and expecting to receive the entire lake.
Sure. So then let's talk,
The volume of water is what the key is.
So then every every effect has a cause. So let's get into what is causing this that you believe, Doctor. Can you explain this in the
Well, first of all, there is the fact that the Earth bulges at the equator. Now, the accepted theory as to why that happens is due to the Earth's rotation. The Earth will have a faster linear speed at the equator than anywhere else. And as you know, when you have, say you have a ball attached to a string, if you swing it around your head, the ball will tend to move outwards. So this would mean that the ocean would be swinging outwards. So there would be a slight force on the water that would try to overcome the attractive force that the Earth has on the water, and that's why the ocean will bulge around the equator. That is the accepted theory. I would actually explain it in terms of the magnetic field, but it doesn't matter. The fact is the Earth and the oceans bulge at the equator. So if the Earth were to wobble, the bulge would move.
Sure.
So it would move from where the equator is to where the equator would move, the new position. And it also bulges because of where the moon is. That's true. I have written an article now about that. So the first thing that could happen is if the Earth wobbles, that is, it suddenly changes its orientation.
Even by a little bit, right, Doctor?
Even a tiny bit. Then around the longitudinal line, and it would have to be the longitudinal line around which the rotation happens, then one side will get closer to the equator, so it will experience a higher level of ocean, and on the other side it will experience a lower level of the ocean. So the first time I wrote an article, I explained this, possibly that the Earth is rotating. Now, the Earth is wobbling. Don't forget, if the Earth is wobbling, there has to be a reason.
Exactly.
The reason why the Earth would wobble is because there's an object that is having an attractive force on one of the poles of the Earth. Say there's an attraction to the North Pole of the Earth to this object, then the North Pole would shift and move towards this object. This would cause a wobble. So this would be magnetics.
So in other words, to explain to everybody, it's like, and I will show it with a round ball here, as the Earth sort of gets pulled because of the magnetics, that's another object pulling on it, it will slightly tilt it, correct?
That's right.
And then the water will also shift, correct?
Exactly. Then the water shifts because the wobble, the bulge at the equator will shift because the equator will be in a new position.
Sure.
So that's what could happen. But it is always associated to an object. The other way we can explain it is with the fact that the moon causes tides. And the tides are caused by bulges that occur wherever the moon is. Then as the Earth rotates, each position on the surface of the Earth will encounter the bulge associated with the moon.
And that's how we get high tide and low tide around the world, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's exactly how it happens. So we would get this tide. Now the sun also affects the tides a little bit, not as much as the moon. So when the moon and the sun are aligned, you get the highest tide, which is called the spring tide. And if they are at right angles to each other, so we have a quarter moon phase, then the tides do not vary as much. So we have all that. But the types of recession of the ocean we are getting is greater than any spring tide.
So then, like you're saying, we'll say, high tide, low tide, the moon does its thing. Right now, we're talking about oceans that have rescinded and not come back at all for 7 weeks, almost about 7 weeks now in Brazil and France and things. So we have a question now, and I knew that it was going to be my next question. So where is the water going?
The Indian Ocean.
Yeah. Well, what happens is...
Go ahead, Doctor.
There were reports that whilst the water had recessed on the Brazilian coast, there was a huge tide coming into Africa. So that would mean that the water is moving away from South America towards Africa. And that would be associated with possibly either the Earth wobble or an object directly causing the water to pool under it, just like it does under the moon.
So when an object to do this, what is really the object has to have a magnetic force, correct?
Yes, we could explain it in terms of the gravitational force. I will still use the gravitational force, even though I don't believe anymore that it is a fundamental force. But we can still use it to model what the electric and the magnetic forces are causing to happen, because the gravitational force is still easier to work with than what we would need to do in order to explain what's happening in terms of the electric force. Because it's always more complicated to use the double charges or the polarization of charge. So we can still model it with the gravitational force and can explain it, therefore, in the same way that we can explain tides. And I have written an article that explains it in that way. So basically, we would have to have a very large object. If it is closer than the moon, then it doesn't have to be much larger than the moon. But it's
what you just said is if it's closer than the moon, right?
Yes.
So then it's interfering with our moon and our basic magnetic portal that we have in a connection with the moon. Thus the tides as well.
Yes. So basically we have to have an object that is approaching our planet. So because this suddenly started happening in August, we didn't see it before then.
Right.
So we would have to have an object that is suddenly approaching the Earth. If it is further than the moon, what it means is it's a lot larger than the moon. And that's possibly what we have. I mean, we don't have reports of objects being seen in the sky. Some people are reporting. I think JFP has had some videos of planets being in the sky.
I've seen them. We have a lot of pictures coming in of planets in the sky. Lots of them.
Yeah. So it's not like we are seeing like we expect to see the moon every single day. And that's possibly due to the chemtrailing that's happening all over the world. But if it's close, it gets more and more difficult to hide an object like this.
Sure.
So people would start seeing it and taking photographs, as you have said. But there would be an object that's causing this. The Earth does not do this without something being there that is causing it. There has to be an object that is causing this.
And like I said, this is serious stuff. I don't think people really understand how, to pull and suck this water out, how strong of a force. It's not just like the little low tide and the high tide. To pull miles and miles of ocean and shift it, that's a very large pull, correct? I mean,
it is. The only other time where we would get such a change in the sea level is during a tsunami.
Okay.
And that's associated with earthquakes. And again, these objects, if they are coming close to our planet, they can cause earthquakes. And the way I explain earthquakes nowadays, it's through the electrical theory. I think everything in the universe is actually electrical. So every object that approaches the Earth would have an electrical effect on the Earth. The sun has an electrical effect on the Earth, and what it does, it ionizes our ionosphere. In other words, it electrifies it. And this electrification of our ionosphere, which is getting quite bad at the moment because of what's happening with the sun, and what's happening with the sun is to do with the objects close to it as well. And this it causes a huge potential difference between the ionosphere and the surface of the Earth, and then there are currents, and then the core of the Earth is trying to equalize this potential, and what it does is it produces lightning, subterranean lightning, and this leads to earthquakes. So, and we would get lightning in the atmosphere as well, also as an attempt, as the Earth attempts to equalize the potential and reach equilibrium. So we would get lightning and earthquakes, and all of this would be happening at the same time. So the fact that we are seeing the oceans receding means there's an object there. If there's an object there, there will be electrical effects. The electrical effects will lead to earthquakes.
I just saw an article pop up here I want to share with both of you from our group. Let me just zoom in on it. And it has to do with, hang on, what's going on my screen? Sorry. It's just a big report that there was a very large EMP over Argentina that they recorded. Yeah, I'm going to show it to you now. I'll read it to you. It says EMP, Mexico's neutron monitor just got blasted with cosmic rays, and South American magnetometers are responding with huge disturbances, even with very low solar induction. Argentina has got hit with a magnitude 4, 5.1 so far today.
Wow.
So when they talk about cosmic rays, let's talk about that a little bit so people understand what, how the Earth could get hit with cosmic rays.
All right. So cosmic rays are particles. They are ionized and an ionized particle is a particle that is missing electrons. So it's usually positively charged, like a proton. So a nitrogen atom is made out of a proton and electron. The electron orbits the proton, basically. When that electron leaves the atom, what we left with is just the proton. And then we'd have the proton separate from the electron. Both of these are then called ionized particles. And ionized particles come in different energies. And the energies are to do with how fast they are moving. So a particle that is moving close to the maximum speed, which we believe to be the speed of light, is called a cosmic ray. And when they come and they impact our magnetosphere, first of all, the magnetosphere does nothing. They come right through into the...
That was my next question. Does the magnetosphere stop it?
It does not stop it. If they move at the speeds that cosmic rays move, the magnetosphere does nothing to stop them. They come right through. They hit the atmosphere. When they hit the atmosphere, they start reacting with the particles in the atmosphere, and they cause cascades of particles. That is, when they impact, say if it's a proton, you get a reaction with a particle, an oxygen molecule or something like that, and it starts creating other particles. And the particles that are usually created are called muons, neutrons, and gamma rays. And others are created, a lot of them have very low half-lives. That is, they don't live for very long and they never reach the surface of the Earth. But some do. The neutrons will reach the surface, and the muons will reach the surface.
So it's true, like what they talk about, that space itself has many, like gamma rays. If a gamma ray from another star came towards us, it could actually wipe out Earth. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, because we see extremely high energy gamma rays coming from the active nuclei of galaxies.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. And they send it out. It just goes out into space, right? It just gets ejected out into space.
So a gamma ray is a light wave, or it can be explained in terms of a photon, which moves at the speed of light. So it is light. It's light. It's not a particle. And we do talk of these as cosmic rays as well, because they're so high energy, and some of them are extremely at an energy that is astounding.
Yeah, they're like a massive. That would be Earth's like worst case ever, right? Like to be hit with a gamma ray.
Yeah, so it would be a gamma ray burst. So it's a huge amount of a lot of gamma radiation, quite a lot of photons at the same time hitting our planet. They would do the same thing that cosmic rays from the sun do. They ionize our ionosphere, first of all. And when you ionize our ionosphere, it can, of course, destroy all the electronics on the surface of the Earth. So that's the first effect that you would get. The energy is high enough, it can ignite our atmosphere. And if our atmosphere is ignited, then the surface would be ignited. So this could be how it could destroy the surface of the planet.
So in other words, it would just incinerate us.
Exactly.
Just soup.
Yeah. So a CME,
I was just going to ask you what, like a CME, a solar flare as opposed to a gamma ray. People are asking here, can these gamma rays that we're getting, and then the difference with the protons, can they affect human beings and how they feel?
Definitely. So the gamma radiation, neutron radiation, and muons will all impact a human body, a living cell, and destroy the DNA within it. So that kills the cell.
Wow. Wow.
And yeah.
That's pretty fascinating. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it can also, if it doesn't destroy the DNA, it can alter it and cause mutations, which leads to cancer.
So that's how you can see when the government and other people do these nuclear testing of the reaction. I mean, excuse me, the effects of radiation, like on animals and humans and plants and things, how they can mutate. Like these animals end up, and insects mutate and grow larger. Some of them, you know, and they actually survive from this large amounts of radiation and other effects.
That's right. So if you change the DNA, but it survives, it starts producing cells that are abnormal, and that's why then the organs will change, and you can become become distorted, and the animal becomes different. And this happened in Russia. There were lots of cases of people and children being born with huge abnormalities due to these mutations after Chernobyl.
I was going to say that was after Chernobyl, right?
That's right. That's after Chernobyl. It did happen. It's been documented that this happened in Russia. So we do know that this is what happens, and as you know, if enough cells are destroyed in an organ, then you have organ failure, and that's why radiation can lead to death within hours.
Wow! So that's why a lot of Planet X researchers and things say, if this system were to come and swing around and come close to us with its tail and things of that nature, its large debris field, that the radiation alone could destroy humans. The radiation effect.
Objects like the ones we have in the solar system, I don't think they are just normal. They're not planets. I mean, planets by themselves would even react electrically with each other. There may be discharges between the two.
Okay.
But most of the objects we have in the inner solar system, and they may have planets around them, but what we are seeing is huge amounts of stars. And don't forget that stars, when they go through the red giant phase, will reabsorb most of their planets.
When you say, okay, let's stop right there. When you say, when the stars go through their red giant phase, they absorb these planets? What does that mean?
So what happens is when a star goes into the red giant phase, it expands. It can expand to 100, 1,000 times its initial size.
So like our sun, if it was dying, we'll say it will get larger and larger before it dies. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what happens.
And then when you say absorb it, you mean it would absorb it into its coronal area?
That's right. So it expands outwards into the area where the inner planets are. And so all these planets would become part of the inside of the star, and they would be destroyed. So basically they would melt.
You know something? You just made me think of something.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a hypothetical here.
Yeah.
The history of, the Sumerian tablets and that of Nibiru and things, that they say that let me give it to you this way. What if this system, at one time, the star was bright, it was burning okay, and it had its planets, like ours, rotating around it, and Planet Nibiru, some historians have said, is that it was dying, like it was not going to be able to live unless it changed its atmosphere, okay, to protect it. So what if Nibiru was sort of like us, rotating around its sun, we'll call it Nemesis if you like, and then that sun started to die out, and thus that planet would become hotter, correct?
Yes.
And then it could actually kill, if they didn't protect themselves somehow, some way from the sun's rays, from these things, that it would just then burn it up, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So one or two things happens. If Nibiru is too far out to be engulfed by the star in the red giant phase.
That's what I'm getting at. Okay, you're on the same page with me. Go ahead.
It would still get much hotter on its surface. And when planets heat up, if, say, they have water on them, then the waters would vaporize, and it would lose its oceans, it would lose its weather, it would lose its ability to support life.
And what could be left is what we're seeing, so to speak. Couldn't it be like a leftover of this star burning out?
I think so. I think that Planet X looks like a star that has gone through the red giant and the white dwarf phase, but it hasn't completed the process and become what I call a brown dwarf star. Brown dwarf star emits.
Bravo. That's what I'm thinking.
Radiation.
That's what I'm thinking.
Object. Yeah, it's emitting dark red light, so it's close.
And then its objects are some of them are its planets and moons. Some of them are in its coronal mass, so to speak.
That's right. So what in my last article I have just written, I thought, okay, the two objects were found, one in the northern hemisphere in the Leo constellation, and that was the dead star, and then Planet X was found in the Virgo constellation, perhaps in the southern hemisphere of our sky.
Okay.
By Dr. Harrington. So
yes, that's where Dr. Harrington found it, yeah.
Yes. So, but the dark star, and I have lately been calling that one Nemesis. It doesn't matter what we call it. That one is described as a dead star. It was initially at 538 AU, so definitely outside the solar system, because the solar system has a radius of 100 AU.
Okay.
Remember, 1 AU is the distance from the sun to the Earth.
So that's 1 AU, right? One AU.
That's 1 AU.
Okay.
So this star in 1983 was about 500 AU away, and it was dead. Now, I said to myself, if this star is part of the Trinary system, which is the sun, that star, and the star for Planet X.
Like its binary twin, meaning the trinary, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 of them.
3 of them, okay.
So if that one died first and it's further out, possibly that one got burnt out by the brown dwarf stars first.
Okay.
So it got invaded first, the stars surrounded it like they are doing our sun, and they killed it. That's why it was dead.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, and then that's where you're seeing similar to what's happening around our sun right now with what you guys have been capturing on these objects around our sun.
Yes. So then possibly they then invaded the Planet X system, and they started destroying the Planet X star. They haven't completed the process completely. And then as Planet X moved into the solar system, they found the sun. The sun is an even stronger star. So they started coming in towards the sun then. This could have taken thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. We don't know how long.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. I believe it's in its process. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that this is something that's ended or you know what I mean? It's happening, and I think it's happening to our sun the same way it happened to possibly Nemesis.
That's right. I agree with that. So That's why I thought there's this Trinary system. This Trinary system is moving with respect to the center of the galaxy. It's encountering different regions in the galaxy and possibly encountered a region where there were all these dead stars, which are not visible.
Right, we can't see them because they're infrared only, right?
That's right. They only, when they are dead, they only emit infrared light, and eventually they emit nothing at all.
But if they get, like we're seeing all these bizarre shapes in our own sun, and this great big purples and reds and sunsets and things of that, that would explain some of them getting closer to our sun and affecting our sun, correct?
Yes, what I think happens and what I've observed happening is they do what I call rejuvenate. They absorb energy from the sun and plasma from the sun, and they are eventually able to produce light once again because they are stars. They still have a magnetic field.
I agree.
They're still able to, like a battery, retain energy inside them, ionize their gaseous material, and produce light. So once they are in the sun's corona for a while, they absorb enough energy, they absorb enough plasma, they start absorbing and they start emitting light. When they start emitting light, I believe they may move away from the sun slightly and establish a type of orbit around the sun.
I agree. That could explain why we see these two suns all the time in different positions.
Exactly. I think sometimes we see multiple light sources in the sky. It's not even just two. It may be 3, 4, 5. Because a lot of these have been around here for long enough to have rejuvenated. But there are so many others. I believe there may be thousands of them now. And a few extremely large ones that have arrived recently.
I want to show you a picture from yesterday.
Okay.
That's not that one. It's from Egypt, actually, and it's quite, I mean, I just put it up yesterday from one of our, let me just find it here. It's quite like, wow. It's, let me find it here. One second. I'll show this as well. Skywatch showed this. This is something. Let me show you this. This is, before I get to the other picture, this is just from yesterday. Look at this. That's amazing. You see that? You see the skies there and the cloud. That's, I don't know. That's amazing.
Oh, yes. I mean, I know Jeff P. has been showing these amazing objects. They always look slightly out of focus, but there's definitely something there.
This setup is from Italy. Let me see.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's just from September 19th.
Oh my goodness, that's not
normal. No, not at all. And then I want to show you from. I'll get to these from Adam in a minute, but there's ones that I captured that were sent to me. If you even look at these here, you can see these constant reflections. Here, I'll do a better picture. You can see a constant reflection of something behind the sun. It keeps, the lens flares keep showing the objects, as you can see.
I noticed that. I looked at the sun and I could see almost like there was another object larger than the sun behind it.
Exactly. And I think people's cameras, because of the technology today, you're picking up this constant purple. You see that like purple flare, right? And everybody's pictures are showing the same thing. So I know it can't be, you know what I'm saying, just like some freak thing, because
no, that is not the camera. That is definitely the atmosphere being illuminated by this color. Remember, it's the magenta color.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's this constant purple magenta color. And I think because of the sophistication of the cameras, that's why it's sort of picking it up as what would be sort of caused by a lens flare, but it's really picking up, it's bending the light, so to speak, and that's what's really behind the sun, is that magenta object.
That's right. And there isn't just one of them. I believe there are several of them now that are emitting this magenta light, which is extremely strange.
Where we talked about that on our last show, we showed that picture from the International Space Station where it was just,
Right.
I mean, really, really purple.
Yes.
Earth looked like it was an Easter egg. I mean, and I'm not trying to be funny. It was just extremely purple. Yes. And I'm looking for these pictures from Egypt because they were just stunning. Here's another one this is from, where is this? Veronica. This is from Spain. Look at this bizarre cloud formation. I mean,
Yeah, I saw that today. I saw that
Scott,
today.
look at this thing. Look at this thing. And it's not photoshopped because I ran the photos through the. You know what I'm saying? It's not photoshopped at all.
See, sometimes we think that all clouds are in our atmosphere. This is not always the case. We could have clouds outside of our atmosphere, even though the idea must be quite new. But don't forget that these objects close to the sun often have what looks like a cloud formation around them.
So let me not to cut you off. So we can explain to people when you say, look at that, you can see the plane in there, Scott. You see it?
Yeah.
Right there at the top?
I saw these earlier today.
So when you say that clouds could not be in our atmosphere and we can still see them, what do you mean by that?
Well, we could have a cloud outside of our atmosphere, like an object out in orbit.
Okay.
And it just has a cloud around it. And if this cloud is emitting light from it, we would be able to see it from the surface of the Earth if there are no chemtrails in the way, of course.
This one, it looks like there's something I hate to say this, but it looks like there's some kind of ship behind this thing, or hidden in this thing. I mean, it's just very, very bizarre.
It is very strange, and I believe there are certain formations, and these round formations, sometimes hexagonal formations. That is all to do with the dipole nature of matter, but
So,
where
that's
the
a good-
positive and the negative charge separates, and then the interaction causes the sort of formation like the red spot on Jupiter.
Okay, so that could explain why a question I was going to ask you, so you could see like this round, almost funnel-looking shaped type cloud. Hurricanes make the same, and typhoons make the same type of movement and shape. And all of that happens on our planet because of the the magnetic part of it, correct?
Yes. It's the magnetic and the electrical together. Even the magnetic is due to the motion of the electron, and but charge itself leads to a magnetic field, and it's intrinsic to all particles. And don't forget this toroidal shape, this donut shape is visible absolutely everywhere in the universe. Galaxies are in this shape.
Yep.
Solar systems are in this shape.
Black holes.
Hurricanes are in this shape. It's everywhere.
That's my point. It's everywhere. Even a portal is shaped like that, like the way it pours into. I'm trying to find these pictures, and I really want to find
That
them.
cloud was definitely in that toroidal.
Yeah, that toroidal shape. I mean, that is very, very bizarre. Here's a great picture. I know where the pictures are now, so I can show you this. But this even here, look at this from Texas yesterday. How the sun's rays are just. It's just.
Yeah, we've been seeing these dark colored rays now for a little bit more than a year.
Scott, do you think? Let me ask you
I've had
something.
So many photographs sent in to me.
I think.
People asking me about it.
I think this is the effect you get when you put a sun simulator in front of our sun.
I agree with that. In fact, I took a picture with my own camera the other day of a part of the sky where there was a line separating the dark from the light, and I could see it was due to a cloud in front of the sun.
Right, because our rays don't. Scott, you've been looking at these pictures for years now, right? So, when was the last time you ever saw our sun look like this perfect rays streaming from it, like something out of a movie that was fake or something?
That's what I tell everybody. I tell them. I said, listen, go back to your childhood, go back to your teenage years, and you tell me when you've seen something like this. When do you remember these dark, bright, pink, whatever, magenta-looking skies. When do you remember the sun being almost bleach white?
Right.
Do you remember these things? No.
I don't. I've even gone back in my old photos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've even gone back in old photos. I mean, the beach and places and things before we even had internet. You know what I mean? There's no such thing. You don't see anything like this at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. You know, I wanted to touch on one subject when you were showing the other pictures with the pink glare in them, the pink glow, what people would call a lens flare.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people don't know, but in modern technology, in cameras, the new wave digital cameras, and also your cell phone camera, they now have infrared technology. They use infrared technology in digital cameras, in your cell phone. So that is the big reason why people are picking up a lot of different anomalies. Now, every picture is different. You do have to analyze them. It does take a little bit of time, but you know, whenever you've been doing this for a long period of time, you can quickly look at something and discern whether or not it is, you know, a photographic anomaly, or it's something that you should look at a lot closer.
Here's a picture from Egypt from yesterday, and then I'll show you the second one. Look at this. If that's not as clear as day, and that's not a lens flare. That's not a lens flare with the secondary sun and above our sun over here. I mean, this is, you know, you can only, and then you have this object here.
What I would do with these types of photographs, and I've seen many photographs from the Middle East and also from Egypt that were taken back in 2014 and 2015. And what I do is when I see these types of photographs, I zoom in all the way to the two objects. The larger of the two naturally would be the sun. The sun's going to reflect downward onto other objects in front of it. Houses, the land, a lake, the ocean, wherever the picture's taken.
Right.
So if the sun's going to produce its light and reflect onto other objects, then the secondary object should be doing the same thing. Now, it's a little harder to catch this with structures like houses and buildings and land.
Here's the same picture.
Lakes and water.
Right. Here
it is very easy to pick out.
Here's the same picture about an hour later during the sunset.
Wow.
Now, and it is from yesterday. I confirmed it's from yesterday, but I want to, if you look here at the bottom, you'll see that magenta circle, like right there. You'll see one, then you see the magenta here, and then if you look over here, you'll see that flare that we always get. That's that purple magenta flare that's on the left side right there. You can see it, like as I said, it's one. There's one right there.
I actually think they use it in the simulator as well, because they want to hide the object that's in the sky that's magenta colored.
Right.
So some of these are sometimes due to the sun simulator that they are using in front of whatever.
It's sort of, you know what I think of this, and not the two suns. That makes, that I believe 100%. What I think is happening here is that the sun simulator is not catching up with the sun as it sets in this particular case. So in other words, the sun is there, it's setting, and then the sun simulator is not staying in front of it, you know what I'm saying, at the same time. So it's making this effect. Not the double sun, but the big, that streaking look. So it looks like the simulator is here, and the sun is really maybe like here, and it's not following it properly.
That's right.
So it's like not aligning, and you would get an effect like this, even though there is clearly, if I go up to this planet, Rick keeps getting these pictures. He's the one that had that great picture before, Scott, with the big object. Look at this one here. You can see he got another one. Look at let me get off of the whole so I can get the whole picture here for everybody. Give me 1 sec, and then you can see it. You can see here, look, this is the object this large ringed, there it is. And you can even see the craters in it. Look at it. You can see all the craters. And look at the size of that thing. It's like, that's what's reflecting from behind the sun.
Yes. Yes, that's what these objects look like. They look dirty up close because they have all this, what's left of their ionizing material attached to them, because they're old stars.
And that matches your picture, okay? Meaning when you looked at the close-up of those great shots you got of that looks like that big bluish, hardened, that hardened, rippled surface, that looks like one of this type of object here, like an old star that burned out.
That's right.
Because you can even see it has lines in it as well with all this very solid surface. I know it looks, for the audience so they understand, this object looks much bigger than what it really is, I think, being reflected from behind the sun, so to speak.
It possibly a large, well, it looks extremely large. We've seen objects close to the sun that are up to 4 times the size of the sun. There's no actual limit to what size we can get, because we do have stars that are over 1,000 times larger than the sun.
Yikes.
So they would produce cores when they die that are, of course, much larger than the sun. So that's to be expected. But this one, it looks beyond anything we've ever seen before. It's
similar to the one. He keeps going to the same spot, I believe, and where he is in Pennsylvania at the similar times. I'd have to ask him, but he keeps getting these great pics at the same.
Wow! Yeah, it's amazing. That's an amazing picture. And the thing is, these objects, when they come into the solar system, they do not emit visible light, only infrared.
So, like right now, this object wouldn't be burning bright for us to see it.
No, definitely not. We should only be able to see it if it's reflecting light from the sun, which would mean that it's behind the sun. But so it would mean that it's larger even than what it looks. But don't forget, we have lens systems that would make these objects look larger, because they want to make the sun simulators look larger. So it could be made larger by that. Also, our atmosphere also makes objects look larger than they really are. So we have those two aspects here.
Explain to you what you mean by our atmosphere making objects look bigger than what they are.
Well, our atmosphere itself acts a bit like a lens. There is some refraction of light of our atmosphere. So if we look at the moon outside of the atmosphere, it looks smaller than it does inside the atmosphere.
Okay. It's like looking at it through a lens, so to speak.
That's right. So our atmosphere is a bit like a lens. Our lenses operate is through refraction. That is, light is bent. So, and then they use lens systems in front of the sun, which would also make things look larger. So, because they want to make, whatever device they have as a sun simulator to look larger, to cover up more objects. So everything else in the sky would look larger than normal. But if we compare the curvature of this object with the sun, we can definitely see that it's extremely large.
Sure, and it doesn't. The sun wouldn't. You wouldn't be able to see through the sun's corona, would you? I mean, without a meaning.
No,
what I mean.
No, we wouldn't be able to see it. But don't forget, what we have here may not actually be the sun.
I don't think this is the sun. I think this is Right, I don't think this is the sun at all. I think it's another planet. Or star. Excuse me, a burnt out brown dwarf or something.
But it must be the sun that's illuminating this object in order for us to see it.
And catching it at certain times catches that illumination.
It's huge. Wow.
Yeah, it's very big. Some of
I wanted to just share a point. I don't know if any of you have ever seen some of these individuals on YouTube that do live streaming of the moon through very large telescopes. They have all of the laptop equipment, the eyepiece, high definition camera.
Yep, I've seen some of them, yes.
Yeah, and they're able to zoom in all the way down to the surface of the moon. And whenever you're viewing it, even with the most sophisticated ground-based telescopes, when you're viewing it, it looks like you're underwater. You see this rippling, kind of almost like a mirage effect. And that's because the telescopes are ground-based and they're looking directly up through our atmosphere, which will distort everything.
So in other words, what you're saying, Scott, is you're going to get, I'm going to see if I'm going to pull it up what a telescope view looks like, so the distortion. Here's another set of pictures here. This is another bizarre, you can see where the simulators are. Look at this photo here. Let me pull it back down. Oh no, let me go to this screen. Look at this here. You can see our sun with those 4 exact rays, like what should be where our sun is. And then you see there's like a spot, and look at this object here, this magenta object right there.
What you're seeing there, whenever you see these multiple colors, those are true lens flares. If you actually study what digital camera lens flares look like, then you'll be able to quickly tell what's in a picture just like this. Now,
I think that this magenta object though is something behind. It looks like it's almost from the sun coming up from the sun simulator to whatever it's trying to hide there, and that's the.
Whenever you're coming up with these different types of colors like this is definitely telling me that it's not a clean picture. Meaning, it's not a natural picture because the rays of the sun are not true.
No,
they're coming through a lens. So when you're shining light through a glass lens, you're always going to come up with these little rainbow colored lens flares, and really this wouldn't even be considered technically in photography lens flares. This is just really totally something different, but this is the effect that you're going to get when you're shining light through a lens, no matter if it's a massive light source like the sun or it's a little pen light flashlight shining through your eyeglasses.
Look at this.
Take a picture of it. You're going to see, your camera is going to see those colors, basically the colors of the prism. You have the purples, the greens, the reds, and you're probably not going to see the yellows or the reds. You'll see these pink colors, like what you see in that picture there.
Look at this.
The halo.
Right there. Whoop, watch.
So much
there it goes.
In the sky.
Yep.
That's another huge problem, is the reflective particles of the aluminum chaff that they put in the chemtrail formula.
Look at that. That's if that's a sundog, boy, I'll tell you what, that's a massive sundog.
Yeah.
Now you can see in that photograph where they have already tried to do the chemtrailing, and I think that I've discussed this with Dr. Albers many times. There is a huge difference, a 100% difference in the formulation that they are using in these chemtrails this year. Last year in 2016, I did not miss one single day of documenting the sky unless it was completely overcast. I paid very, very close attention to the formation of the chemtrail clouds. They were totally different. They were thicker and they were heavier. This year, all of a sudden, just right off the bat in January of 2017, I started noticing that they were spraying a different kind of chemtrail formula, and it was, well, I'll just use the word lighter, and it dissipated very quickly, and it did not form thick clouds. It produces a complete haze, which literally blocks out everything, but the sky doesn't look blue anymore. the sky looks white.
Yeah, it looks white. I want to show you these pictures. There's some pictures that recent. Look at this one. There's a couple of these. These are quite stunning. There's a couple pictures here. Look at this. You can see. Let me, if my head is in the way, let me get my head out of the way and do it that way. But you can see. Look here. Look at this. You can see. There's that same colored object you guys keep picking up right there. That large. It's that bluish. Green,
Yes.
right there. And look at the sun. The sun is like, it's, very weird, very, very bizarre. It's,
It looks like there may be several objects there.
That's
but
what I'm
definitely
saying.
The bluish one is the most visible of them.
Yeah, exactly. But if we zoom in on that object, it's like the same as almost the exact. I think it's the same one that you guys have been capturing. Mm-hmm. Look at it. See it? You can even see the deformities, the same things. And that's not. I don't. That's not a lens flare. I don't care. I don't think that's a lens flare.
That would definitely not be defined as a lens flare.
There it is.
The only other reference to that, I mean, you have to actually examine the photographs. And when I mean examine the photographs, I mean, that's why I tell a lot of people, even though I get,
Just so you know, Scott, this was from Texas this morning from Adam Bowles. He said he took it this morning at sunrise.
Yeah.
From Texas.
Yeah,
Wow.
You really have to analyze the photographs. You have to definitely put them through different filters, put them through a gamma test, zoom in. I mean, you have to have just a little bit above average programs in your computer. Definitely your monitor on your computer is going to make a big difference. That's why I have a high definition monitor, so I can see things a lot more clearly when examining this type of footage. The only thing that would be another possibility is ghosting in a digital camera. That's
right.
The only other option. It's not a lens flare, but that would be the only other option. That's it. It's either there or the digital camera. If it's that, looks like it came from a P900 Nikon camera. I'm not sure exactly what kind of camera he has, but
wow,
that's pretty reminiscent of a P900.
Look at this picture. Holy shit.
Bong.
Bong. Wow, look at that. That's astonishing. Wow.
That's amazing.
Look at that photo.
See, I truly believe that if we were not subjected to all of the chemtrailing and the sun simulation,
right,
if we were just able to see natural skies, natural sunlight, I think everybody's eyes on this entire planet would be wide the hell open.
Yeah.
This is quite interesting photo.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It almost looks
like a
mushroom cloud.
Yeah, and there's a lot. This is a lens flare of some picking up something from up. There's a lot going on actually in this picture. If you look, there's some. And there again are these. I'm going to zoom in on this. I haven't even seen. This is the first time I've seen this photo. It was put up by one of our team.
Yeah, and we're definitely seeing sometimes these rays, looks like rays across the sky. That can only be caused by a light source close to the atmosphere or within the atmosphere. So that's an indication of the use of a sun simulator.
Right. Look at these bizarre rays, Doctor, down at the bottom. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our sun, I'm sorry to say, it doesn't produce these kind of rays. I mean,
Definitely not.
I know we will simulate, and then up here, look at the sun. It's very, like, just wacky. This whole interesting, very interesting. I mean, the more I keep telling people, keep taking pictures, because from all over. There's a close up of it. Oh, yikes!
Oh, most definitely. Keep taking the photographs. I mean, I wish more and more people were using regular 35 millimeter film instead of digital cameras.
What the heck is this?
We would be seeing a completely different effect.
Look at this photo. Wow. What the? I'm going to zoom in on that. Look at that.
Wow. That looks strange.
I want to see what this is. Look at that. That's not a lens flare, Scott. Look at that. Is that the moon? Can't be.
That looks like a lens flare because it's in front of a cloud, but I'm not sure. It does look a bit like a moon.
See, that's the big problem with these P900 Nikon cameras. They do have a very severe ghosting effect internally. They are great cameras, but without the proper filters,
right,
professional filters, you're going to come up with ghosting images in the P900 Nikon camera. And if you start asking people, what type of camera did you use? And I did this last year because I caught myself numerous times. And, you know, I'm like,
Christ,
wow.
that looks like Venus.
Yeah.
If you really look at that thing.
Well, if Venus looked that big in our sky, we would be in trouble.
I know. I'm just saying, it's bizarre. It looks like Venus.
Yes. It's very bright.
There it is in another shot. It's still there.
Yes, you have a couple of programs that I use that allowed me to take blurry photographs or photographs that are zoomed in so heavily and they get pixelated. I'm able to reduce the size of the pixels, say from 300, I could reduce them all the way down to 10,000 in the image, which makes it a tighter, cleaner image.
Right.
Call it cleaning up the image. It does take some time, and then it allows you to zoom in even further, keeping your detail.
Right. Whoops.
That's the moon.
This?
No, the photograph, it looks like it's the moon.
Yeah, it looks like the moon. When you look at pictures of the sun like this, though, look at how weird this thing looks. I mean, you can see that there's like a simulator in front of it. And
Yeah. Definitely looks like a simulator.
Pictures with this.
I think our sun's back here. I think our sun is back here, like back in this area.
Yeah, don't forget they have to hide the sun because first of all,
It'll be eclipsing all the time.
Yeah. And then it's getting eclipsed.
That's what I'm saying. It'd be eclipsing all the time because of these objects near it.
Exactly. And some of these objects are now a lot larger than the sun, so you can imagine what's going on.
You would definitely know it.
Yeah.
You would definitely see it. It would cast one hell of a shadow onto the Earth.
There's even a closer zoom up of that same photo. Look, I mean, you could see it. Look at how bizarre it is. I mean, if I put it on a full.
Yeah, I actually caught an object.
Wow, this is really. Look at. You can pick up the.
2 months ago.
Scott, look at this thing. You could pick up the rectangular, the square. You see it? Look at it.
Yeah. It's not even circular.
It's what the hell is that? Jesus.
It's a device.
Wow. And you can see that this area is the device part, like this piece, and then it's emanating that, and that there's something obviously much larger behind it.
Definitely, you can see that. Can definitely see that. I saw it with my own eyes because I can actually look directly at the sun, and I saw it. And you know, the sun that we have in the sky nowadays doesn't look like the real sun because it's got this metallic look to it.
I've also noticed, Doc, I'm going to say something. I spent a lot of time walking outside when we're looking at our new survival communities and property and things like in Kansas and there. I noticed that it's very bizarre. I grew up on the beach and I always laid in the sun and things. You do not, it's weird. So at certain times you will not even, I could be out there for 3 or 4 hours and directly in the sun and not get like what I would normally get as sun color. And then at other times, you could be at the same timing, same thing around, and then you would get lots of color, whereas opposed to you could be there for hours and not get any like real color from the sun. It's almost as if like when the sun simulate, like when you're in a certain, the sun is in a certain position or something, you're not really getting those UV rays. And because they're being blocked or some, you know what I'm saying? Something is
magnified. You're getting magnified rays whenever you're getting that color intensely.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So at other times people are getting, and if you look up stories around the planet, sometimes people are getting blistering sunburn, and then other times they're not getting any sun really at all. Like they're not getting any color from it at all.
Yeah, well, they do have different sun simulator models, and they possibly are using different ones at different times of the day. So they have some that are in orbit, and they have some that operate within the atmosphere, because I have some...
Oh, I agree with that, Doctor. They have the one that's coming from the U.S. Space Station, ISS, and it's a rounded disc, large rounded disc object, and it projects this light, and you can see it, and we've captured that. We got it from someone else, and it is a real photo, and it shows it of what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This
is from Mexico, right before the earthquake. Look at this. I think this picture's stunning. Actually, it's quite.
Yeah, it's actually very scary.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, this is like, wow. This is some picture here.
Wow.
It's almost angelic.
Yep, and I've tested it. It's real. It's not a. You know, look at that.
That's amazing.
And that was right before the I think it's before the large earthquake, just at the 7.1.
Yeah, 8.1. Yeah, I watched some videos about the reports of the lights that were seen just before and during the earthquake. And that's why I then investigated, and I realized that earthquakes are electrical in nature. Well, of course, everything's electrical in nature. They want to hide that from us. But that's why you would get these colors is due to the ionization of the atmosphere due to the high electric fields that are generated within the ground. And then
when they hit the Earth, okay, you get when this electricity and hits the Earth, you get the earthquake. It's like the plasma from the sun.
That's right. So it's the high electric field. It actually comes from the ionosphere, and what's happening in the ionosphere comes from the sun, all these objects around the sun, and then within the Earth is a lower electric field, and it tries to equalize the high with the low, and then it sends out a bolt of lightning across. And wherever the lightning hits, that's where you have the earthquake happening.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and then the thunder, because we always have thunder associated with lightning, and thunder is actually the vibration of air molecules. That's what a sound wave is. But inside the Earth, you get the vibration of the rock itself. That's why we then feel the earthquake.
Exactly. Yep. And that's why you saw tons of reports. Remember, Scott, right before even that 8.1 that we said was coming, and it came before the 7.1, people from all over Mexico were saying they saw all these lights right before this glowing greenish, brightish lights. Right before that large 8.1 that we believe is a 9, easy. Yes. For that, Scott, people are they're asking a question, and I want you to answer this because otherwise I'm going to go bong, bong, bong. I'm going to let you answer this question. Both of you can answer this question. How do we know that they're using a sun simulator?
Well, I started doing my research on the sun simulator. Probably pretty close to 2 years ago, and I started having thoughts of my own by looking at the lighting outside, and the lighting outside just didn't look normal. All of a sudden, just one day, I was driving down the road and I was going through town, and I noticed that everything looked like I was in a studio. And it boggled my mind horribly for a while, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then day after day after day after day, I was noticing this. And I knew that it was not normal sunlight. And the thought never even crossed my mind about something exaggerated as a massive mechanical device in space that would be able to modify the view of the sun that we see. And then I started speaking to one of my subscribers, a German gentleman who was a retired professor and a retired professor of astronomy. And he had showed me some absolutely just the smoking gun photographs.
Yeah, I'm going to pull some of them up now. Go ahead while you're talking.
He was an amateur photographer, and he uses old school 35 millimeter film. He was noticing the same thing. I had mentioned it back in August of 2016 in one of my videos. And then he sent me the photograph. And when he sent me the photograph, I replied to his email and I said, "What in the hell is this?" And he said, "I think it's a lens." And I replied back and I said, "A lens? A lens from what? Your camera? You know, blah, blah, blah." And remember, he's using 35 millimeter film and he develops it himself. He has his own little dark room in his basement and the whole 9 yards. He said, "This reminds me of a Fresnel lens."
Yep.
And I said, "What is a Fresnel lens?" He said, "It's the same type of lens that they've used in a lighthouse for more than 100 years.
We have a patent on it."
And then he sent me all of the information on the lighthouses, the lenses, the whole 9 yards. And then I started thinking to myself, wow, this must be the reason why I'm getting some of these rainbow effects with the rays of the sun, because the rays of the sun should not be producing rainbow colors in the rays of the sun. And then
Yep.
more and more people started getting onto this, and then I ran across Jeff P., and me and Jeff P. started getting into investigating this NASA sun simulation device that they built supposedly to simulate the sun indoors.
Right. Well,
So
just
we
since
started the research hot and heavy around September of 2016, and then we started catching the photographs, and we started talking about it, and more people started sending the photographs in, and then we started analyzing the photographs coming from some webcams in Australia and also the FAA webcams up in Alaska. And between collaboration between me and Jeff P., we really started putting it together. But, you know, I mean, I pretty much made the groundbreaking discovery with the 35 millimeter telescopic photograph of this Fresnel lens through a 14-inch telescope. Okay, now that's a 14-inch telescope is no joke.
that's a big
It's a
scope.
pretty powerful telescope. It has a motorized tripod, the whole 9 yards. And the photograph came back, 35 millimeter film, and you can clearly see the entire Fresnel lens.
I think we're way beyond this one from the ground, though, now, and using one off the International Space Station for real. Here's another.
That was the little baby model.
Right. I think they've taken this and made it with those newer, with the gold lenses.
Absolutely.
And here's a picture for everybody. Here's one right here. Ready? Right from space. This is a real photo. Boom. I rest my case. There it is. In space. Right there.
Yeah, that picture that you're showing there was sent to me the day that it was taken.
Yeah, I know. I just got it from you.
Yeah, that was, and the guy he took it from the mountains somewhere. I forget where, Colorado or something.
Boom.
And he was really freaked out when he looked at the film, looked at the picture. And I've never seen anything like that. And, I mean, let's face it.
Now, I don't know about you, but if we take this picture here and look at this picture here, they only did was take this one from the ground and put it up in space.
Yeah.
And make it work the same way. Boom.
You have to remember something. All of these space shuttle missions.
Boom. There it is right there.
Space shuttle missions. We don't have one single damn clue on what they were doing, what was in the cargo, only what they tell us. You would have to build something like this in space.
Boom.
It would be something that would come out of the base station and literally unfold. And they do that with their big solar panels. They basically unfold like a butterfly in a cocoon. When it comes out, the wings come out, and it's very, very fluid motion.
And Germany just launched their own sun simulator from the ground.
Yep.
It's right here. This is this massive bulbs. They've turned this sucker on already. I don't know if everybody can see this, but they just put this on the news a few months back. That they
I did a story on this.
Yep. Oh yeah, we both did.
It was pretty amazing.
And that's Germany's from the ground, just using halogen, bulbs.
Yeah, there's no doubt that I truly believe that they are able to magnify this sunlight. There may be a couple of reasons why they're doing it, combined reasons. One, to blind us so we can't see past the rays of the sun.
There's there's the original patent for it back in the day, right there. Illumination system, including a virtual light source. 1966, we've had the patent on this thing. So you don't think by now we have the technology where we have it in space? It's pretty clear.
I actually came across that patent and I wrote an article on it, but I had to change the patent. There was a mistake in it.
Really?
Yeah, one of the mirrors were turned the wrong way in the patent.
Really?
And I thought,
wow.
It wouldn't have worked with the way the mirror was. And so in my article, I had to change the mirror around. And I put the story in my book. I actually wrote about that. I don't know if they put it like that as a test, because if people didn't know any better, they would just draw it the way it was in the patent, and they wouldn't realize that it wouldn't work.
Because that's when they originally stopped. But think about this. Why would they even consider in 1966 to have to simulate the sun? If we really think about this, that's like in 1966, here they are, Now, this is pretty much, I'm looking at
that's the smoking gun that it's up there.
Yeah, exactly. And my point is, it's 1966 to even, you know what I'm saying? They had to have a reason to come up and develop a sun simulator.
If you go back even further, 30 more years, you're going to go back into the times of Percival Lowell, and what is his assistant's name was Tom Thumball, I think. Percival Lowell was already looking for Planet X. He was already documenting the perturbations of other planets.
Right.
So, we really don't know the things that go on in the background of these governments and what they do in their research with our money.
You could see the beam. You could see what we just showed in that space picture, one of them right there, projecting right up. You could see it. That's exactly what it's doing.
Yeah. Also, we find that some of them are in the atmosphere because we see that cloud behind and in front of the simulator. So there are some that operate within the atmosphere at cloud altitude. And these are, I think, newer ones. The older ones are all in orbit. But they cannot just be one. Remember that the sun can illuminate the whole of the Earth's atmosphere, but a sun simulating orbit can only illuminate a portion of it.
Right,
so
exactly.
You have to have lots of them.
That's why you'll have several of these floating lenses, so that they can just keep, as it orbits, it just keeps like one after the next, to the next takes over, and the next takes over, and the next takes over. So like in a whole string of them, because you wouldn't have to. Here's another one.
What exactly are they doing in the space station? They've been up there.
I know, right? What the hell are they doing up there?
It must stink to high heaven by now.
I think it's all bullshit, if you want my opinion.
I mean, they've run every freaking test of whatever. They tell us about this and tell us about that. Excuse me. I think that the space station is the control operation, as we call it, Houston.
Yep, that's what I think.
The Houston operation for these simulators. And if you watch the pattern that the space station takes as it rotates around the Earth, it goes in that wavy pattern, up and down.
There's proof of it right there.
The Earth.
There's proof of this thing right here. You can see it, the way the lenses are, the way the projection is coming off the sun. And you can actually see an object right here. Look at that. If I zoom in on that.
Yeah, and there we get these big rose petal
Yep.
lens flare anomalies.
You got it. Look at that right there. And then look right there where you see the lenses, the line, the things, where it is, right there.
Yeah, now here's something else. Back in, October, November.
There it is.
2016, both Jeff P. and myself, we caught this type of photograph, the one on the right.
Mm-hmm.
We caught it on video down in Australia, and we caught multiple lenses, 8 of them, in a pattern all the way around. And we caught them rotating, spinning.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. They have to rotate.
Yes, because you figure if there's 8 of them, 8 divided by, or 8 times 3, or 8 times 4, wait a minute, let me go back here. 8 times 3 is 24.
Right.
So you have an 8-hour day, let's just say that. So they're rotating these lenses every 8 hours.
Sure, they're probably, I believe that they're operating them so that they just automatically, as the sun, with rotation, it's just like the one picks up and then the next picks up and then the next,
And I think they're different thicknesses to bring you the different intensities of the light according to the time of day.
And you just
have to be that hard.
All you need is a computer to control it. It's not like,
That's right.
I mean, a computer.
Yeah, there's no doubt that,
Christ.
We're definitely not looking at the real sun. And just like Dr. Albers has stated before, the sun is going dark.
Oh, I believe the sun is dying, believe me.
Yeah. I mean, I've been looking at the SDO photographs and the 48-hour loop for years. Dr. Albers has proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the corona has shrunk. I mean, it's basically at some points in time almost non-existent. We've caught it. So if the sun is not producing the regular amount of natural light, do you think the people on Earth would notice that? You're damn right.
So of course they would. Of course they would.
All the time.
Of course they would. Of course they would. They'd notice the whole, my God. And the eclipsing is what you notice the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then, you would cause a worldwide panic. With social media, you would cause a worldwide panic within an hour.
Oh, sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sun is just, I mean, there's some of this stuff is just amazing. Here's Germany's sun again, right there. The world's largest artificial sun shines brightly for the first time in Germany. There's that's the lens cropping of it. I just pulled up the article. That's it right there. And that's from Germany. And that's just a small portion of the size of the whole project. And that's nothing compared to the ones they have in space. But why does Germany even... They have to be testing this on the ground because, you know, you wouldn't be putting light bulbs like this in space. It doesn't mean... You don't need to do that. You just need the lenses. You just need, you know, the proper lenses. So I don't know why Germany fired this up, to be honest with you, what their plan is with this thing.
Well, they all know that the sun is destroyed, is getting destroyed more and more by these objects. I think they know. Then the governments know the truth. And they're all trying to mitigate what is happening with the sun and possibly being able to go on as a nation. So Germany, obviously, because they have enough money and they have good technology, decided to get in on the act. It's usually the ESA, the European Space Administration, and NASA that first put these things out in space.
Oh yeah, combined effort, trust me.
Yeah, of course. I just don't think a lot of people understand when a sun burns out how you get the anomalies that we're having now. And you know what I mean? People have this thought that the sun just all of a sudden goes boom. You know, it's been happening for some time now. It's not like...
I believe these objects have been coming into the solar system for at least 100 years.
I would
because
believe that.
The sun's magnetic field has been changing for about 100 years, and that's possibly what was seen at first, because the objects were not visible. But they were trying to get into infrared telescopes from the 1960s, so possibly that somebody had already realized that something was happening to the solar system around then.
Sure. Well, if you look at, what's the name of the astronomer that was the first to discuss this? Not Sitchin, the one down in...
Harrington?
Harrington, yes. Harrington was a brilliant man, and he foresaw, this coming.
Yeah, he had a meeting with Sitchin, and that seemed to... promote the idea to him even more. And I think that meeting was in 1990, and then he went to New Zealand in 1991. So
I believe so. I have some people saying they don't believe that people would panic if they knew what was going on. I highly disagree with that.
Yeah, I would definitely. People panic.
I highly disagree. Look at what just happened in Florida with the mass exodus and going on just of a hurricane. If you knew that, our sun was burning out and we having these major things happening in a planetary system coming close with a pole shift coming possibly in that, you think people aren't going to panic?
And people have been exposed to, weather phenomenon their whole life. Hurricanes, tornadoes, tropical storms. So they know the word. They know what they are. They know what they look like. But if you would walk outside at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it would be kind of dark,
yeah,
you would be like, okay, you'd have one of those major WTF moments.
Exactly. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, and then what would you do? You would jump on Facebook, and then your information would now travel around the world within minutes.
Marilyn, I'm not going to... Did Admiral Byrd die? Now, natural causes, was he terminated? It's believed he was terminated. Admiral Byrd knew way too much information about Antarctica.
He wouldn't shut up either.
And he wouldn't shut up either. So I would 1,000% say he was taken out. He was not, and listen, I'm all for whistleblowing. I'm right there with Admiral Byrd. I'd be blowing the whistle too, but they can't have somebody blowing the whistle. That doesn't work.
I think now at this point in time, I think they are probably kind of beyond the point of taking people out, because there's a little bit, there's some people out there that are really, really in the spotlight, and if all of a sudden they just come up missing or something like that, it's going to cause even a bigger conspiracy. So they just use the disinformation trolls, the disinformation campaigns,
sure,
the slander campaigns, and they just let it be at that.
Adam just brought up a good point, and if you remember H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, right? Radio broadcast. People were jumping out of buildings when they heard
Absolutely.
that, and it was a fake story, you know. And it's a very good point, Adam. You know, he brought that up, that, you know, just on that H.G. Wells' story there. So if all of a sudden, you know, news media started to say, hey, by the way, tomorrow an asteroid is possibly just really going to directly impact us, or in a week or a month, forget about it. It's just, I'm using that as an example, an asteroid, let alone a planetary system coming through our system that may spin Earth completely opposite on its axis and, you know, push all the water around like we're in a washing machine and bury everybody. It's, you know, people would just be like, and that's why I think people don't believe today, Scott. Like, they don't even want to believe.
Yeah,
they live in like a denial, you know?
Yeah, there's so much disinformation out there. You know, people, if you made an announcement today that, you know, like you said, an asteroid was headed towards Earth and it was going to be here in 72 hours, 90% of the population on the planet would be like, okay, are we going out to the bar tonight or what?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, that's basically the attitude of the world population. You know, it's very sad.
That's my bong theory. You know, bong, 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 bang head against wall.
You know, and myself and the doctor, you know, I mean, we're constantly beating our heads against the wall about, you know, why aren't these people believing us? Number one, they don't know enough about the solar system. They don't know enough about the sun, our planets. So it's almost like they have to go back to 9th grade Earth space science class and, you know, refresh their mind a little bit. You know, I ask, you know, a few friends who, they're teenage kids. I ask them just basic Earth space science questions, you know, just as a test. They don't know shit. Nothing.
Yeah, I agree. And our school, as we were talking, Doctor and I we were talking before with you. I'm going to ask her now. I mean, let's talk about our educational system. You know, what are they, Doctor? What's your take on our educational system?
Yeah, well, the educational system has been purposely dumbed down. I mean, there is a good reason why most of us who are delving into this are in our late 40s or in our 50s.
Yep.
That is because we went through an educational system where we were taught to think.
Thank you for giving up all of our ages, but that's okay.
And people since then, I think about that time, don't forget, after the 1980s, they decided to cover this up. They came up with all kinds of plans. They came up with the chemtrailing, they came up with the sun simulators, they came up with changing the educational system so that people would not think for themselves and realize what is happening. So that was all part of the plan. They changed it. So nowadays, children go to school and they get taught that multiple realities are possible. And the way you realize what is true is you go by consensus. If everybody agrees, then that's the truth.
Exactly.
So there isn't a real truth. They do not believe in a real truth or in thinking through and getting to the truth. That doesn't exist in their minds because they get taught against it.
They also believe that the government won't let them down. I mean, I think that's one of the most, like, you know, the most craziest things of all, that they believe the government will tell them the truth. When people come to me with that, I'm like, are you kidding? You know. Just like I've seen Donald Trump over the past few months, and as more and more gets closer and closer about this Russian investigation, he's calling it's all fake, it's a hoax, they made it up. And I know it's not, because I know people surrounding that. But my point is, if you're going to lie big. I'm telling you now. If you're going to lie big and tell them that it is, it's all a hoax. It's all fake news. They made it all up. So it's not true. They just got all of this evidence from like 50 different people and different wiretaps and whatever. And it's all, they all conspired together to make up this hoax. But I'm using that as an example as lying big. You know what I mean? And then the masses will believe it.
That's right.
P.T. Barnum said it where he said, listen, if you're going to lie big, because they'll believe the big lie. They won't believe the small lie, but they'll believe the big lie. Sadly,
yeah.
That's...
Also, people don't want to believe. If you start telling a person about what's going on, they may even understand what you are telling them, but they decide they don't want to know, and they close their mind.
Bravo! I say it all the freaking time. They don't want to know the truth. They don't want to. Meaning they'll accept. They'll take it in, but then they close their mind off to it completely. They're like, okay, they live in their own little world, and they want to live in their own little, place, and that's good because they're out of fear, or it hurts, the truth hurts, or whatever, and then they live in their own reality, but guess what? That doesn't help them or their family or their future by living in a false reality.
That's right.
I believe it's actually a dangerous place to live for someone to live in a false reality.
It is, and because I also believe that the powers that be have gone on to another phase of what they want to do, and that is to take every single person in the world and process them through the system. Like in the United States, you have the different lists. We each on one of these lists, and they've decided who they want to live and who they want to die.
Sure.
And so they want to take every single person through this process. And people are in it, that some people will believe the lie no matter what, and perhaps those will be selected to be slaves. And the rest of us who are possibly awake are on the kill list.
I know that sounds crazy to people, but it's really true. Mm-hmm. They don't want panic. They don't want that. They want everybody to follow along, and those that do not follow along and that are awake, they're going to come after. I mean, yeah. That's and I think between now and the times that it gets really, really bad, they're going to try to eliminate the masses as much as possible, whether it be by disease.
They're going to try to displace people. I think that we are in the beginning phases of it.
Yep.
I think that we are definitely going to see more and more of this as time goes on. They have no choice.
Exactly.
I hate to say it, but that's basically it in a nutshell. They really don't have a choice. They have their own agenda, and they're basically their backs are against the wall. They don't know what to do. They're not going to do the humanitarian thing. They're going to do the evil thing.
Yep.
That is eliminate as many people as possible to keep the numbers down. That's why they've been collecting people's DNA through these, what's your family heritage background here, send us your blood sample, and we'll tell you where your ancestors are from. No,
sure.
That's not what they're doing. They're harvesting your freaking DNA.
Yep. They sure are.
Absolutely.
And, it's just a very, as much as we all like to put it out there, and the truth, there's only certain people, I believe, that are going to get it, sad to say, but there's only a certain group of people that are going to really get it. And then those are not going to get it until it's too late. Exactly.
And where are they going to come running to?
That's a good point. Right. Where are they going to run to? I mean, these people don't have any, they have no place to go. Most of them are not prepared for anything in their life, and their savings and things, they rely on 401ks and things. And when this financial crisis that's comes, okay, and it's big. This one is huge. When this comes, they're all going to be like, okay, when it's time to go to the ATM and it doesn't work and they can't access their money and the market is done beyond 2008 and whatever, beyond that, they'll understand, okay? They'll get it then. And they'll be like, oh, well, what? I wasn't warned, or bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. I don't know. So let me ask you guys, I'm going to show everybody here. I want to show where everybody can get the doctor's book because it is a great book. And I want everybody to see this. You can get it at Planet. What's your website, Scott? Tell everybody.
Planet X Researcher.
That's it.
.com.
Planet.
No www, just planetxresearcher.com.
Searcher.com. And you can watch both of them on YouTube, which I'll show you here in a minute. If I can get off my screen here. Hang on. Sorry. And, Doctor, you have another book coming out.
I should probably write another one because I've discovered a lot of new information, but I haven't started yet.
I was just curious if you were. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I have been writing a lot of articles. I've written number 52 now, and eventually I will have to put it all in a book again. But that's what I've been doing. Just writing articles for now.
And you can come to planetxresearcher.com and you can get all of you can get her physicist reports here. You can get them downloaded. Then they have the video page, photo gallery. You can contact them. And up here under more, you can get the Planet X book, the doctor's book. It's a great read. And then news and the physicist channel, which she's on YouTube along with Scott under Planet X News. This is the physicist. Your channels are. I haven't had a chance
to do some updating. I've been so busy over the course of the last 7 days. Out of the last 7 days, I put in 4 16-hour days in a row. I
hear you. I've been working around the clock with our survival group and our new Atlas Survival Cities and our new social media, what we have coming out, our own social media channel.
Traveling too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this
takes a toll.
Yep. And here's Scott's channel, the Nibiru channel, Planet X News. And I always share, when I share these videos onto YouTube, if you guys watch, and the link is down below for both of them, so you can grab the link from me as well. Love the website's great, and then you can go here for the doctor's book, right to Amazon.
Yeah, I think Scott has done a really good job with the website. It looks lovely.
Yes, he has. Good job, Scott.
I haven't built a website in quite a while, but I built that one in about 4 hours.
Yeah, well, he knows advertising, so.
And you can come right there from the website and just go, or you can go just type in that Planet X, The Awakening, and I'm sure the book site pulls right up, right on Amazon. So it's only $19.99 or $19, yeah.
And we were actually thinking about and talking about the other day about publishing another book with all of her articles. Now, before Dr. Albers even came to the United States, she had already written close to 75 reports.
Wow.
Before she even came to the United States. Since she's been here, she's written 52 more.
Wow. Yeah, I would definitely that would be a good idea, Doc, to put them all in a book.
Yes.
Compile them all and put them in a book.
Now that I know exactly, the formatting to do this, because I'm not an author.
That's how I listen. I have a ghostwriter doing my book. I just put them in videos and I gave them to the ghostwriter. I'm not a writer. You can put me on video all you want. You can put me anywhere you want, but I'm not a writer.
Well, what the biggest pain in the butt was the formatting for the Kindle version and then the formatting for the book, like the sizes. So that was a real pain. That was a stumbling block. But, now we know exactly what can be done. And she does a great job with keeping all of her reports in a very good order. And now I could actually probably put this book together in a matter of days and have it published maybe 72 hours.
Wow. That's great. Scott, let's end on something here. Let's talk about what's your thoughts on the current earthquake pattern. What do you think? And then let's get the doctor's take. What do you think is going to be up in the next week or so, a couple of weeks?
Well, as of lately, right now, I mean, we have been getting hit over and over and over again with the solar wind, solar streams. We have another massive solar wind coming at us within the next couple of days, and it's going to stretch all the way through to the end of the month. And you can already see the uptick in the earthquake activity. And just
Sure.
as we were talking, I just did a quick update, and just as I mentioned,
Yeah, I
today,
just saw it come on. I just saw it come on there.
yeah, the deep earthquakes that have occurred in the South Pacific around Fiji and over there in New Zealand have already reverberated 48 hours later straight to the west coast of South America, where Argentina and Chile are getting hit. And also these earthquakes are now stretching down into Central America as we speak.
Yeah.
And California.
I was just going to say, I think California is going to be.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, what's going to happen between this Earth wobble and the intense pressure on our planet and the tectonic plates. Sooner or later, something's going to give. If it gives in the Cascadia fault zone, it's going to reverberate all the way down through the San Andreas, all the way down through the coast of Mexico, and we are going to have a massive disaster. Massive. And people are going to know it.
Oh, they'll know it all right. They'll know it all right.
There's no doubt about it. But, you know, I mean, I am on top of the earthquake situation pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Doctor, we'll wrap up. What do you think right now is the main cause of these acute earthquakes happening, the ramp up?
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with Scott. And the primary reason is the ionization of our ionosphere. So that's the top portion of our atmosphere. It's getting more and more charged because there are more and more of these ionized particles coming from the sun and coming from these other stars in the inner solar system. So that is causing the increase in earthquake and volcanic activity. And leading to, it also leads into the earth wobble, and it's just changing things. It may even affect communications.
Sure.
And then we have this object that, to me, is quite troubling, that seems to have approached the Earth. And if this object has brought a debris field with it, what we will start to get is meteors. We may get meteor showers, and those can be very damaging as well. And with the earthquakes, of course, we have the tsunamis. The tsunamis can be devastating as well. So that's the type of thing that I would see happening. And that it's all due to what's happening with the sun. But the sun would not be doing this if there were not other objects causing it to do this.
Sure.
So the primary reason is these objects that have invaded our solar system.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. You've become great friends, as well as much respected by myself and our group and MFA. And again, for everybody, please go. This is their website, Planet X, The Awakening, and it's at planetxresearcher.com. And you can get all their YouTube channels from there, as well as their book, current video uploads. And again, guys, I can't thank you all enough for your time and for for everything that you're doing, especially Scott. I know we all get beat up out there by, when you go to tell the truth, we're all getting beat up out there. But you know what? For every 10 that don't believe, there is 1 or 2 that do believe, and we can help them. So, again, guys, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, absolutely. And, I'd just like to say all of your viewers, they're fantastic people.
Thank you.
I enjoy, interacting with them, and they all deserve the right to hear the truth, to see the science, to see the evidence. And what you see and what you hear, you're a grown adult. You can make, you can make your own mind up on what you're seeing and put it together. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help. It's not a money-making scheme like others say, because believe me.
I know. That's the best part.
I calculated my hourly rate the other day. It's $2.53 an hour.
People have no idea how much time and energy goes into all of this,
We just bought another supercomputer, which was another huge investment.
Sure.
So right now in my little command center here, I have multiple laptops going 24 hours a day, the other supercomputer going the other day, large screen TV. It's so hot in my office from all of the computers running in here. This is serious research and investigation. We're not just playing around to make YouTube videos and
I know.
book.
I don't even have ads on my YouTube. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have ads on my YouTube. So, it's like whatever, you can say whatever you want. I don't even have ads going on my YouTube,
Yeah, it's more trouble than it's worth. But absolutely, it's been a pleasure. And we'll get together, every couple of weeks, and we'll be more than happy to step in and give an update on what we found. And whenever you get to the point where you're going to start writing your periodical, the doctors agreed that she would.
Oh, yes. I wanted to announce that I forgot everybody with MFA News, our new site that's coming out. The doctor's going to be doing a periodical column in there with her reports and things, and I'm honored to have her at MFA News. That'll be great, and that'll be very good. For us and for her, and it's very good. And a couple of my followers just stated they just ordered your book on Amazon, Doc. So,
thank you.
Well, that's good that Amazon could give us that 6 cents royalty.
I know, everybody thinks that, and thank you, Bev, for ordering the doctor's book. And thank you, good night, Deborah, and everyone. And everybody's there looking forward to our new. I can't wait to get our MFA News network and TV network up. It's almost finished, so we're ready to go soon. So I'm meeting with our new editor next week, so we should be good to go within a week on that. So
yeah, that's going to be a good endeavor, and I think you're going to start reaching a lot more people, and that's what this is really all about. This is trying to gain and gather a network of people, and through that network, you'll start gaining more and more viewers, more and more followers, and more people opening up their eyes, taking off the blinders. And for some adults, it's a little harder to learn something totally new, scientific, at our age.
That's true. You can't teach it's like teaching an old dog new tricks, right?
Yeah, because people will tell you flat out. They'll say, listen, I don't have the time for that. Well, guess what there, Bob? Whenever the sky starts falling in and you're beating down my door, I'm not going to have the time for you.
Exactly. So
absolutely. But it's been a pleasure once again.
Thank you. Yes, both of you again, and God bless. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great night. All right. God bless.